get into the sin of baptizing and not making a disciple. Love people deeply from the heart, disciple all of their life, especially their finances. Good morning, church. This is a lesson entitled Love and Money that I'll actually be doing to the Los Angeles church. And I'll be preaching to a church that, in some regards, I don't know the members and a lot of the leaders. And so whenever you don't really know a group, it's easy to offend people. So in England, we have this expression, which is, if the cap fits, wear it. And what that actually means is, if this is for you, you put the hat on and you take the challenge. And if it's not, don't get offended, just let it go over your head. So today, if the cap fits, wear it. Amen. So today is entitled Love and Money. So what makes you feel unloved? For me, it's insincerity from others. You ever had somebody go, love you, bro? And in my heart I go, do you really? What have you done for me lately? Or, happy birthday, bro. And it's just a mass text. I hate that. I always try as much as I can to do an intimate call or actually write a card or take time out to write an email where it's something pertinent about that person, their humility or something like that. And it means that it's personal. But in an age where we have so many apps and so many emails, it's really easy to feel unloved because of just the insincerity of how much we do. I think the other thing is feeling used by somebody for their benefit, glory, or agenda. I was speaking to one of the top leaders in the ministry, actually, in Los Angeles, and he was saying how when you're asked, how much special you're going to give, how do you feel? He said, angry. I thought, that's interesting, you're on staff. He said, well, this younger brother phoned me up, and he just said, what's your special? And he goes, I was ticked. I said, well, hold on a second. Is that always the case? Oh, no, the leader I've got right now, he can phone me up anytime. I said, well, hold on. So the issue is not being phoned up. I said, what's the difference? I said, well, the leader right now, he puts time into me. We have a relationship. He's a young leader, but I feel like he's interested in me and asks me advice. And it's this issue of love. And love will cover over a multitude of sins, even in young leaders if you're an older Christian. I think about being neglected until somebody wants something for you. When somebody called you up only when they want something. I remember a young Christian telling me, he said, you know what, when I missed my contribution for the first time, they were on the phone. He said, but you know what, I've been giving money for 50 weeks. Nobody phoned me up and went, hey, thanks for giving it last week. And that lack of sort of sincerity really hurts people. I know it does for me. I think also being hoodwinked. Okay, a hood is like you put it over the head and, being hoodwinked, being taken by somebody in a hood. I think when you feel like someone is really giving to you and then another agenda comes out that you feel like was their real agenda, that really ticks me off. I think about even when I go to America and I have to watch my heart because for most other countries we come and you buy something for $20 and then you go to pay for it, and it's actually $23. Right. Now, here's one of the things. You may go, well, bro, over here, that's just the way we do it. You can say that, but you are not recognizing it still ticks me off. And if you just in the ministry, you go, well, bro, that's just how we do it in the church. You are missing the point. This is how other people feel when we deal with miscommunications or lack of clear communication over money. They go, that's not what I understood. And if you just come at them and go, well, you should have. That is the worst thing you can do. I'm reminded of Proverbs 18:19, the NLT version. It says, an offended friend is harder to win back than a fortified city. Wow. And I would say there are more people offended about how we deal with money than any one thing. Yeah. When I feel loved by someone, I will travel over land and sea for that person. I think about the Klopeks that now lead Orlando. They discipled us every week when we were in Brisbane. we were just these fall-away remnant couple. They gained nothing from it in their ministry. There was no contribution, nothing. But every week they turned up for 5 years.
Wow.
There is nothing I would not do for that family.
Yep.
Nothing. I think about the Antillans that have helped us. Again, the shepherds in Kerry's and my marriage. What does it gain their ministry? Nothing. We don't live in LA. We don't give them anything. And yet, we are immovable in our love for them. But when I feel unloved with someone, and maybe it's just me and my sinful heart, I'm often immovable in my stubbornness to want to do anything for them. They must rely on my spirituality, which is often not there, for me to be moved. Are you the same? Is not your ministry the same? Is that not especially true of when being asked to contribute towards something financially? Like being asked to give money for someone's birthday present who has mistreated you. Go, bro, this intern, he's a great guy. Give him some money for his birthday. Go, there's no way on this planet I'm giving that guy any money. All of a sudden your wallet shrinks to like $50. Isn't that true though?
Yeah.
You see, the facts don't matter to people when their feelings are bad. You can say, God wants you to give money to someone, but you know what they can say? I will give him money, but just not through you. We have an interesting situation in our church in that we have a Presbyterian minister coming to our church who feels so unloved in his own church, he visits us after his and gives his contribution to our church. And has done for 5 years. I wonder if there's anybody in your ministry that in their mind is sitting down going, you know what, I would give more contribution, but I feel better about it giving it to this local charity.
Wow.
The only thing that never fails, the only thing is love. 1 Corinthians 13:4, love is patient, love is kind. Does not envy, it does not boast, it's not proud, it does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes. Love never fails. Says it's the only thing. And then later on in Galatians 5:6, it says, the only thing that counts. Yes, the only thing that counts. Galatians 5:6. The only thing that counts is faith expressing itself through love. I strongly believe that one of the things that makes people feel that religion, Christianity, and true disciples are insincere or hoodwinkers is the way that they deal with money.
Yeah.
When we shower non-Christians with love and only ask them to give contribution in the last study due to our lack of skill, conviction, or cowardice, we create in them a potential for mistrust and a foothold for Satan to work his dark magic. When baptized disciples learn about benevolence and special as an afterthought to conversion, they can be left feeling with, we are only after their money.
Right. Yep.
In the same way that we talk about praying, reading our Bible, coming to meetings, evangelism to potential converts, in the same breath, we should be talking about contributing to the kingdom of God.
Right.
We need to talk about it from the beginning. That's what I do. In the Seeking God study, when we talk about God wanting to turn your whole life around in Psalm 119:2, I share about how he turned my finances around, how he turns other people's finances around. Yeah. I just share things like, you know, before I became a Christian, I used to smoke. And obviously I know that's harmful, but I didn't realize the massive financial impact that would have. I've worked out that since the day I gave up smoking in 23 years old, I would have spent $500,000 on cigarettes.
Wow.
Becoming a Christian is a financial good decision. I think Matthew 6:25-33. I like to put it in context with verse 24, because that title about do not worry was not there by God. And I start off with Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one or despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money.
Right.
I just go there. I go, this is about where your heart's at towards money. In discipleship with Luke 14, ask them how they feel about giving up everything and ask them to start giving contribution that Sunday. I tell you this, it will show you who's really open. Many of us do studies with people. We do the kingdom, we do light and darkness, we do all that, and we hope they're open, but they're not open.
Yeah.
Luke 14:33 says, in the same way, those of you who do not give up everything you have cannot be my disciples. What a perfect opportunity to talk about finances.
Yeah.
After the kingdom study, talk about what that means. Seeking his kingdom through coming to all the meetings. What you're going back there with Matthew 6:33. Evangelism, prayer, contribution. Share about how excited you are about giving and receiving benevolence and planting churches with special. I think many of us have received benevolence. You go, I'm so fired up to be in the kingdom. I've been in a really challenging situation and the church helped me out here. In light and darkness study, go after greed, self-indulgence with overspending. Ask if they are in debt and why. Come up with a plan to help them. Debt and overspending, which is greed, should be sins you see on most people's sins list if you have done your job of teaching them the truth well.
Right.
Again, I share about, I used to get drunk a lot. And so becoming a Christian, I saved money. Actually, so smoking and alcohol went out the window. That's where most of my money went. I said, I'm so fired up to give up sin, even from a financial point of view. Do the study with dealing with contribution before conversion from my book. I think I wrote it in there, and it does say dealing with contribution at conversion, not after conversion. Yeah. Do you notice that? Why did I do that? Because so many people have problems beforehand. Yeah. We insist on this. The other thing I do is, I'm very gentle with people. So when it comes to special contribution, I go, if you're baptized this year, because obviously it's quite a bit of a challenge and you don't know about special contribution, and I normally give people a buy on that, so we don't expect it from you in the first year. Do you know what that does? When everybody else is raising money, they go, I want to be in on this.
Right.
That's true.
So you demand it, and you go, that's a stumbling block.
Yeah.
And then they get involved in it. And then ask them to go off and spend 2 hours or an hour just praying to God about what is a generous amount for them to give God. And get them to tell you before they get baptized. I hate running after contribution pledges afterwards. It shows a lack of you converting someone. Now, 2 Corinthians 8:12 says, for if the willingness is there, the gift is acceptable according to what one has, according to what one does, not according to what one does not have. I think it's great. We baptized Gwenda this last Sunday. She's been giving contribution for 2 months. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
We didn't even know she was just throwing it in the basket. If you're like, so what's your contribution plate? Oh, it's this, and I've already been giving it for 2 months. What's the problem? That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's why we're done.
Do not get into the sin of baptizing and not making a disciple. Love people deeply from the heart. Disciple all of their life, especially their finances. I love talking to people about money because I have seen and felt the pain when people are bad or not on top of their finances. And it has become a salvation issue for them.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a weak disciple fall away because being asked to give special was the final straw for them? Yeah. That's on your leadership.
Yeah.
I've made it my conviction to believe that no one can outgive God. Right. 2 Corinthians 9:6. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly also reaps sparingly. Whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each of you should give what he's had to decide it in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all you need, you will abound in every good work. I believe to some degree I have mastered how to help people out of debt and into profitability, which was not always the case for me, because I genuinely love people deeply, as I'm sure all of you do as well. So I have 2 points today. Point 1, you must constantly love people for them to feel like they want to give money. You must constantly love people for them to feel like they want to give you money. Mark 12:41. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowds putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, I tell you the truth. This poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she out of poverty put in everything, all she had to live on. Have you ever wondered how or why the widow was so willing to give all she had to live on? If you read most commentaries today, they will say she had a reckless type of faith. She had a heart just to trust God that he would provide. She was demonstrating what it meant to give everything up. While there may be truth in this, not once have I seen mention in any commentary that she could happily give in the knowledge that she could then go and get the widow's portion of food allocated to her, given by the national tithing system, or food from the harvest fields. Wow. Deuteronomy 26:12, it says, when you finish setting aside 1/10 of all your produce in the 3rd year, the year of the tithe, you shall give it to the Levite, the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat in your towns and be satisfied. Deuteronomy 24:19, when you are harvesting in your field and you overlook a sheaf, do not go back to get it. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you beat the olives from the trees, do not go over the branches a second time. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, the widow. When you harvest the grapes in your vineyard, do not go over the vines again. Leave what remains for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. Meeting a widow's needs was a widespread practice that was adhered to in Israel so that God would bless you personally and as a nation. Wow. There was actually always a season for eating food. I've given you a table here. This is a modern agricultural practice in Israel. But I've lived in that area, and even during the times when these crops aren't available, there are actually other foods. Israel has one of the most fertile soils in the world when tended properly. So I remember when I was living around that area, one of the things on here is oranges. So actually Israel is famous for oranges. And you can live off oranges. How do I know that? Well, I was so poor when I lived in Greece and I picked oranges that I actually just ate oranges every day. Now, not a good tip, because you actually do turn orange. You actually do. You do. Your skin starts, I know because I've been there and I've done that. For like a month, I ate oranges because I was a non-Christian. They give us money to buy food. And then I go, I'll buy some food, but let's have a beer first. And I got in this thing where I go and have a beer and then spend all my money, and then there was no food. So I go back the next morning, and what did I have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Oranges. So there was this system where this woman did not fear actually starving. My point being, the country and its leaders, by the command of God, created a system to take care of each unfortunate person's needs in the kingdom of God. The incredibly impressive thing about the widow is that she was happy with just her daily needs being met for her personal contentment. She kept nothing back for wants or luxuries, which basically she would have had to have kept one of the coins to buy something other than food. So her incredible heart was, I'm just happy with food. I think I've always been impressed just by some people. We had a sister called Beric who came over from Samoa. And she used to give $200 to $300 a week as a student contribution. And you know why? Well, when she came to Sydney, which is a first world country, she didn't then buy into living a first world lifestyle. Yeah. What she did was, well, in Samoa, you'd have a couple of clothes and that's it. So I'm not going to go and fill my wardrobe up. I'm not going to go buying loads of shoes. I'm not going to just go down the supermarket and buy everything I want. So she was easily able, with a scholarship which she was on, to give that. Why? Because she lived this life where she was just happy with being fed. I think about the sister we have who's now in the ministry, Beth. Beth would earn $1,200 a week and give $600 to regular contribution. Why? She was just happy with, I'm just happy in the kingdom of God. And of course, we hired her with a heart like that. She was willing to give everything away for God's kingdom because she knew tomorrow's food will be taken care of by God's system of love, this widow. And that was enough for her to be happy. She felt loved by God and trusted his leaders, or she at least trusted God to take care of the bad ones. Do your people feel loved and taken care of when it comes to their financial needs? Have you created a system where they can give everything today because they know how their needs will be met tomorrow? Do they see you involved in their life to a personal level, sincerely interested in their financial health, their savings, their career, personally, in depth and consistently, like a father or a mother? It's how Paul treated his ministry. 1 Thessalonians 2:7. Just as a nursing mother cares for her children, we care for you also. We loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. Surely you remember, brothers and sisters, our toil and hardship. We worked night and day in order not to be a burden to anyone while we preach the gospel of God to you. You are a witness, and so is God, of how holy, righteous, and blameless we were among you who believed. For you know that we dealt with each of you as a father deals with his own children, encouraging, comforting, urging you to live lives worthy of God, who calls you into his kingdom and glory. You know, your disciples' finances and careers should be growing. That's what should be happening, because you're involved. Our newly appointed shepherd, Lennox, I remember when we saw him become, he was restored from the ICOC, and he just, graduated, and I started to work with his career, and he was on $45,000 a year. I said, man, you're a town planner, you can get a lot more than that. He goes, well, I've only got a few months experience. I went, you can get far more than that. And I used to be in recruitment, so I do know a few things on that. And I said, we need to go, man, you can jump to 80. He's like, and when you're on 45 at 80, that's like, I'm a millionaire. And I went, no, so we can go. So I helped him apply for jobs. I helped him with the encouragement and everything like that. And then all of a sudden he got this job back, $73,000. Wow. He's like, whoa. He now owns his own company. I'll tell you one thing about that, though. I remember when he raised his, he got his 73,000, and I just wanted to see where his contribution was at, and it only went out by a little. I went back to him and I said, "Man, let me ask you. If I said to you when you were on $45,000, if you can raise your income to 73,000, how much would you have put it up? Would it only be $20? Oh no." I said, then why have you only stuck it up $20? I said, you need to go out to God tonight again. And you ask yourself, are you being generous to God? See, building somebody's career and their spiritual life, they go hand in hand. The byproduct, not your motive, will be that their contribution pledge grows. Yeah. I think in Los Angeles recently, the challenge I've been given is that in the last 8 years, it hasn't grown. It's roughly been about 40, 50. It hasn't grown to 80, 100. Our disciples should always have lives that grow. See, if you fight for their soul and build their life down to their finances, then they will fight for the kingdom's finances and build the church. I think we're always looking with the staff about how to give them better salaries. The Haas are on staff in Sydney, and we've been looking at what the government give them and everything like that. And actually, we figured out if we pay them a little less, the government will give them more, and therefore they'll have more money, which is a good deal from my point of view as a church leader. And I said, but you've got to trust me, we're going to give you less this month to get more. And they're like, ah! And then they recently got back paid $3,000 as a result for the children. But you've got to help people. Help them how they can claim with taxes. When I first came to the church here, and I'm not Australian, I decided to master how to do taxes for people. So they would encourage them to get more money. And I remember Lennox used to be a soccer star, okay, to some degree. And he'd get paid, I don't know, $100 and $200 if he scored a goal. And I said, Lennox, you do realize that you can claim hair gel as a soccer player. He went, what? I said, yes, apparently someone has put it in the rules that because hair gel can make you more aerodynamic, therefore you can run fast. This is it's a law in Australia. As a result, you can claim it as a benefit to being a professional footballer. Wow. He didn't find that, I found it for him.
Yeah.
That's the level we need to go to make our people feel loved.
Yeah.
The greatest investment you can have is your people.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a second income stream. You need to teach people to have an entrepreneurial spirit. That's what the parable of the talents is all about. It's like, give you a bit of money, go make some money for me. Why? Teach them to be able to make money quick if unexpected bills happens, like a parking ticket, a broken down car. I think people are always having extra bills they don't expect. So they've always got to take that money from somewhere. So I think some of our interns do Uber. Why? Because they go, okay, I've got a parking ticket. Well, I'm doing Uber tonight. It's a challenge, but it's not a burden.
Yeah.
I've started figuring out how to, what they call flip, as in you buy figurines and then you sell them online. There's a whole international market for it. I started out with just doing it for fun. Now I'm tracking different things so that you can buy and sell. There's a lot of other ways that you can make money. Go on the internet, buy my book, and also listen to the next 4 days of teaching I'm doing to the teens and students, the singles and the marrieds. And I'll obviously put a lot more details in there to encourage them. Everybody needs a way to make their special from outside their own salary. A way to plunder the Egyptians for special so they are not burdened or see special as a burden, duty, or struggle.
Yeah.
It needs to be an adventure. I just love Christianity if you have the right mindset. So I've run the LA Marathon to raise money for special contribution. I think that year I gave $5,000-$6,000 of other people's money for the kingdom. It was great. And I got to do an adventure and get fit.
Nice.
I've walked Hadrian's Wall in England, 72 miles for special contribution. 3.5 days of just hanging out with my mates. When do you ever get to do that? And the church goes, hey, take 3.5 days off because it's for special contribution. We've had cupcake sales. We've had balloon selling at Vivid. Help people be motivated and excited. These are things that go on their resume that then can go and get them a job. I know when I used to employ people, if they ever ran a marathon on there, I'd employ them. It shows grit, determination, discipline. There needs to be a practical, workable system that works with expectation. I think the Sydney example of weekly shepherding meetings. So right now we have a shepherd meeting with our 6 trainee shepherds or 1 appointed. And we have a list of everybody's name, and you'll see a list here. And I've just taken out the names for security reasons, I don't know, just in case anybody gets upset. But basically, every week we get it out. We look at a person's name, what their status is, what their contribution is. Do they have savings? If not, why not? Okay? What is their next special? Could they give it right now? If not, why not? You should have savings that you just go, hey, all right, is it time for special? Let me just write the check. And then what to do to build their life. Understand this is just after we've come to the GLC and just given last year's special. Right, so that's why it's a little bit low. And, people have had to pay $4,000 or $5,000 just to come to the GLC. But we're starting building their life every day of their life. Why? We're managing their careers. We're finding out what their problems are. We find out if they're embarrassed and they've got an extra bill or they're in trouble. Do they need benevolence? Whatever it is. But we're building their lives every single week. Not just before special contribution or not just in January. Every week we look at every disciple and go, how is their health? How can we help them change? Yeah. We also look at who's missing. Obviously, in the minute, what's the plan for that? And then also the follow-up studies and where everybody is with that. And then when we have enough people doing the follow-up studies, they're all done, we have a Young Christians party. We've got to be vision-focused. So yes, I believe that at conversion, somebody should go and pray and decide between them and God. But I also have an expectation of getting every individual to give $100. We ask ourselves and them, what do we need to do to help you to get to a point where you willingly can give $100? And be relentless with it. It will help drive their careers, which they will love you forever. Note, if everybody in your church naturally gives $100, the new converts are more likely to. Why? Because when they hang out with the people they're studying the Bible, they go, how much do you give? You go, well, I give $100. Well, that sounds okay. I'll give $100. In other words, if you don't have an expectation within your church, it hurts your converts. And then you're in this merry-go-round where it's just really hard to move. Yeah. I think you've got to have a conviction to teach people not to be reliant on their parents as teens and students. They may get kicked out. One of my evangelists, when he was converted, although he was in Australia, he was kicked out. So he had to put himself through university to become a Christian. So we had to teach him. He would get up at 4 a.m., go and get a job, work until 8 a.m., earn their money and put it through. I think about even some of the students we've had recently. Brooke, his parents came over and went, you know what, we're not going to give you any more money. This church stuff, we don't like it. So you've got to teach people early on to be able to face those challenges. It becomes a salvation issue. Wow. You know, with our kids, I know when my son Luke wanted a computer at 11 years old, I went, great, go to work. Go to work. So we found this paper round thing that he wasn't legally allowed to do at that age, so we wrote down our name for him. But every Sunday they would send us these magazines. We'd sit there as a family, we'd do all the magazines up, he'd drop them off, and sometimes, you know, it was this great one time he went to do it and he just got distracted by the ducks, so we had to go and find him. But we made him work for it. And when he had that computer, it was his computer. And I remember he saved up extra money, and at Christmas, he had bought everybody in the family individual gifts. Aww. He became a giver, a worker at 11 years old. Wow. Why? Because we expected it. You've got to expect miracles in people's career. I think we've worked very hard at people's career. We've had maybe 5 people get a job as a librarian just putting books back on shelves, and they were paid $37 an hour. Because we don't just allow our people to go and get $9 jobs. There are some amazing jobs out there that you've got to get excellent at knowing your city, knowing the companies. And so once we had one brother find that, we were like, let's shove every Christian there for 37. What do? I get a book, I put it on there. $37 an hour. They are there. It's just no one's talking about them as a non-Christian because they don't want to give you one. And you've got to go and look for them, because if you seek, you will find. Amen. When your disciples have a sustainable incomes, growing incomes, several revenue streams, they will have a sustainable faith to give. Keep giving and increase their giving as God expects. 2 Corinthians 8:7. But since you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in complete earnestness, and in love, we have kindled in you. See that you also excel in this grace of giving. Notice the overseeing evangelist here says, look, hey, I have kindled in you more faith. I have kindled in you your ability to speak better. I have kindled in you more knowledge, more sincerity. And now I want you to kindle to have more giving. It's the leader's role to kindle it, not command it. Most of us do not lead a ministry willing to give up everything daily like the widow, but a ministry giving out of their wealth or lack of. Why? Because your ministry is not confident of where the next load of money is coming from or where to find it. Yeah. Why? Because you have either not mastered this concept or are not teaching it with wholehearted, consistent conviction. And ministry reflects who you are and who you are not. And it's not hard to turn around. So last week I went to New Zealand for 1 week. Now understand this. This is a church that already gives over $100 a week. All right, they're the 3rd highest giver. That's what Kip said at the GLC. But that doesn't matter. I'm not sitting on our laurels, because we disciple people's life. So I started to get with people on an individual basis. I got with this great couple, the singers, married. They're going through some hard times. And I just listened, encouraged and everything like that. They can't give any more money. They need to get out of debt. They need to get a better job. And so I'm not looking at them, and I actually don't go in with an agenda. I just listen to people. And I go, okay, do this, get a better job. He starts another job, I think, yesterday. And it's closer to home. We talked about adjusting his schedule, praying with his wife every day, making sure the marriage is great. But then I go with this guy called Sione. Now, Sione is actually a Tongan student on a scholarship. So I just listened to him, got to know him, and I'm just trying to figure out his life and really connect with him. I go, help me understand something. Can I ask you why you only give $31 a week contribution? I know we had somebody from a similar island on a similar scholarship, and she gave $200 to $300 a week. and just, go through what you're doing and how you're doing it. And this is what I found out. I started asking more questions. Okay, when you first came, how much was your rent? So it's $600 every 2 weeks in halls. I go, do you live in halls anymore? No, I moved out. I said, so what did your rent go down to? He said, well, it then went down, maybe to like $380. I said, okay, so what did you do? Well, I had to tell the, scholarship, and so they gave me less money. I said, okay, so where's your rent now? He said, it was now back at $580. I said, have you told your people? He said, no. I said, okay, so your rent has gone up from $380 to $580, and you haven't told why. Well, I failed an exam, and I felt really guilty. I said, so let me understand this. There's $100 a week that you're not getting, that you're entitled to, that you could raise your contribution $100 a week if you just filled out a form. He went, yeah. When you put it like that, it sounds stupid, doesn't it? I said, yeah. So what should you do? Fill out a form. And over the next 2 days, what did I hammer him for? Have you done the form? Have you done the form? Have you done the form? Said, I have. And what I found out is the money that they would put aside for the rent is still there. They have $2,000 in a bank account waiting for me. Wow. So I said, so you can raise your contribution $100 a week, and all you have to do is fill out a form. He said, yeah. I said, that's a good idea. I'd do that if I was you. Then I got with another guy who was a potential intern. This guy's called Rafaro. And he said, describe yourself. I said, I'm pragmatic. I said, well, let's look up the word pragmatic. Is it in the Bible? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. And what does it mean? Diligent, everything like that. Now, here is a guy, in some ways you're looking for. He's so disciplined, right? He's never struggled. So he pays his contribution of $30 a week. He went to the GLC. And he said, I know how much I need to make, and then I live my life according to making it, and I don't work during term times and all this sort of stuff. I said, okay, so you live by sight, not faith. I said, you know that's sin, right? I said, let me ask you, have you ever struggled with finance? He said, no. I said, let me ask you another thing. Does anybody challenge you on finding it hard to move people's hearts? He said, yes. I said, you know why? I said, you've never struggled. See, what normally happens is you get people and they're converted and their finances are all over the place. But they actually have faith about how to raise more money because they're used to being in debt and then suddenly finding it. So they actually know what faith in money is. Then you get them to the point of being pragmatic. And because they know how to raise extra money, they're now disciplined and make extra money. Your problem is you've never struggled. And I told him, I said, you need to pick something in your life where you put a goal on it that will make you struggle. And I gave the example of me running the marathon, never having run one before, proclaiming I'm going to do it in front of staff, and then you have to do it. So I'm challenging my character to grow. And I said it could be doubling your Bible talk. It could be raising your contribution to $100. It could be anything. And he said, Amen, I understand that concept. Next day I got with him. I said, hey, what have you chosen? I haven't chosen anything. I said, well, I think you ought to do the money one because that's easy for you to get your head around. He went, you're right. So now his contribution is raised from 30 to 100. Come on. Then I get with this guy called Pascal. And again, I've been asked to get with him, listen to him to help his issues and stuff like this. And I'm just listening to his life and getting to know him. I said, let me just ask you, why do you give $70 a week? I'm not. And then he started telling me about his dad and there's challenges and, he's in financial situation. And I thought he was going to say, I feel like I can't give more because I've got to give my dad money. He didn't say that. He said, but I feel like I need to put some money aside for in case. I go, great, so have you got savings? He went, yes. I went, that's brilliant. That's great. That's good. Okay. Then I asked him, how would you feel if I asked you, just how would you feel to raise your contribution by $100? His exacts were, you know what? I know I can do a lot more. That's it. So he hadn't raised it because nobody had asked him personally. I said, so if you just imagine if you raised it $100. He said, yeah. I said, how would you feel? He said, well, I've gone from being a student to having this job. So all I'd actually have to do is go back to my mentality as a student because now I'm very free with money. I'll buy a coffee here, I'll buy a coffee there. But if I just went back to that student mindset, I could give $100 easily for a week. So what do you think you can do? I said, you know, if Sione, Rufaro knew, all raise your money, your contribution by $100, I can immediately employ another intern in New Zealand.
Wow.
Well, how will that change your church? You go, well. And I said, it's Sarah. He goes, well, that was really far, yeah. And I said, so if you do that, then I promise you, I'll announce tomorrow, we'll put Sarah in the ministry over in New Zealand. I said, how do you feel? I said, I feel pumped. I said, I am doing something with my money. I have changed.
That's right. Come on.
And I said, well, look, let's just go through your schedule. I said, you know, your financial schedule, how much are you earning? 2,900. How much do you give on rent? 600-800. All right, say 800. So you give $70. So basically that leaves you like 1,800. So you'll be going down to spare money of 1,400. He said, yeah. I said, well, I know your contract comes up in 6 months. I totally expect that you'll give $100 extra a week. And then the contract, because I heard the good news on Wednesday that Tyrone, who's your boss, says that you're doing really, really well, that they'll raise your salary $100, because that's just how God works. So really all I'm asking you to do is raise your contribution for 2.5 months. And then you'll hire another staff member. He goes, I'm excited. Then we go on a date with this other couple on Saturday night, and I'm just sharing these stories. The sister is sitting there going, so how do you feel? Convicted, I'm raising my contribution. So I was in LA when Kip said, raise it $20, I already did it. But you know what? I'm on 120 grand a year. These kids aren't on anything. I just need to raise it. Go with the leaders meeting. This is the ongoing thing. And so I'm sharing all these great stories. And so Rufaro, who said he'd raise his contribution $100, is sitting there. I go, so Rufaro, did you give it today? He went, no. I said, guys, you see that? It takes accountability to lead. Rufaro, give it today. See, people have good hearts, but they need discipling.
Yes.
So after being there nigh on a week, contributions gone from 2,200 to 3,000. Enough money to put on 3 new staff.
Wow.
It's just a flying in visit from a church that is already giving the 3rd highest contribution in the world.
Come on.
Notice, I rarely talk about money in lessons. I rarely do. Actually getting up there and just doing it. I do the financial presentation, but I always do it one-on-one. Because it's personal. People feel loved.
Yeah, that's right.
Quick note on Christ-like leadership in this area. Are you as comfortable talking about finances, other people's finances, with your disciples as Jesus was?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable having yours talked about amongst your peers? If you are not comfortable speaking about money, what else are you not comfortable speaking about? Purity, bad attitudes, sins. See, it's a character issue.
Yeah.
Leaders with a lack of ability or desire to talk about the truth and love will never make people feel loved or please God. If this is you, then you need to change immediately or find a different role in the kingdom until you have learned to imitate this Christ-like quality. If you're unbold in talking about these things, it may be because of your unrighteousness in your own finances and use of money. Because Proverbs 28:1 says, the wicked flee where no one pursues them, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. A lack of faith can also be sin. When we lack faith ourselves in an area, we don't call people to it. This is especially true in finance.
That's right.
You know, being chosen for leadership, staying in leadership and church growth has a direct correlation with how well you handle money. Read the parables of the talents or money in Luke 19:12 to 27 or Matthew 25:14 to 30. Even the shrewd manager in Luke 16:10, it says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? And if you're not being trustworthy with someone else's property, who will give you property of your own? Can you comfortably walk in the light with your own finances? You know, recently, I know I've just had the tax department gone through my taxes. You know, every so often they pick somebody and they just open it up and goes, where's the receipt for everything else? I'm like, fine, just bring it on. In actual fact, I underclaimed. I put in $250 for parking. It was more like $700 for parking this year. I was like, give me more money. Thank you for putting me in the light. But is that you? I know when I get criticism personally, people go, this is too far. I go, here's my bank account. Have a look. Remember this one guy goes, I think you get paid too much. So let's open up my bank account. I asked, what are you on? He said, man, you're on 20 grand more than me. Here's my bank account. Where's yours? He was like, oh, well, no, I don't know. I said, you see, you have a problem. You have all these bad attitudes in your heart, but when it comes down to the facts, this is just slander, because when I show you the facts, you're not willing to walk in the light either.
That's right.
You know, who gives the most contribution and special contribution in your church? Is it you? If not, why not? And is God comfortable with that? He may well be. Prayerfully mature ministries actually have, you know, mature people earning lots of money. But Luke 12:48 says, from everyone who's been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. Point 2, you must constantly have money to make people feel loved. You must constantly have money to make people feel loved.
That's true.
Luke 16:9. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. God expects us to have money. Use your wealth implies you have some. As to spending it when Jesus says, when it is gone. Jesus expects us to use our money to win friends, non-Christian friends and Christian friends. This is a salvation issue. The power of money to make people feel loved is incredible. Ecclesiastes 7:12 says, wisdom is a shelter as money is a shelter. I think about the Cambodian orphanage. When I went over there, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and I found this orphanage with Bladdy, and these kids were just running wild because nobody had taken over. Somebody had sort of rejected it. The kingdom got together. I phoned Nick. The Mercy went in, and we built them showers and I mean, these kids now have a life. Then when Kerry and I went to leave Manila, we started with this girl, you know, had a child out of wedlock, really, really challenging. We said we would financially adopt her. Her name's Miracle. The JC and Ina are now a parent. And every, week we get these little videos of her, she got top scholarship, and it warms my heart. But it's changed her life. This girl will have an education. She won't no longer be in poverty. And actually Ted, that Presbyterian minister, his money goes to actually straight to there, because then it encourages him to keep giving it, and then we just add some on top.
Yeah.
I think presents, parties, gifts. As a leader, I understand now that you can't touch everybody. But we try and give every individual in our church a Christmas gift. Every single person. I think, we play a lot of risk with all these figurines. I try and make armies for people. In other words, while I'm on the phone and different things, I can build things, I can make things. I can touch people in the fellowship without actually having time with them. I think paying for others when you go out. I remember studying with this guy called Mafixa from Botswana. And I always remember it because I studied with him, just normal study, and he was in England, and I bought him a coffee. You study the Bible with someone. He said, you know why I continued studying the Bible? He told me this after I became a Christian. He said, you were the first white person to ever buy me a coffee.
Oh, wow.
It's amazing what impacts people.
Yeah.
But for him, he had never been bought a drink by a white person. I was oblivious, but you're generous, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think to feel loved yourself, you need money. To dress well, go on nice dates and get a spouse, get a car, rather than unsafe public transport in Los Angeles. Make family feel loved. Our kids, they're non-Christians. They need money. All right? They need cars. Our spiritual kids. The amount of people we have bailed out personally in the church, I'm very proud of how unresistant my wife is in this.
Okay.
One of the original missionaries, she needed $5,000 to stay in the country. And Karen and I said, well, do we love her? I remember sitting on the bed going, do we love her? Let's give her the $5,000 personally. The church didn't have it then. And we said, well, we'll expect her to pay it back, as the Bible says, but in our hearts, the money is gone. And then she paid a couple of grand back, and we said, just let it go. That's the loyalty it takes.
Yeah.
One of my interns, Solomon, gave him a car, gave him our car. But they're our children. They're not interns. They're our children.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
To motivate people to do well with money, we must promote the power of money.
Come on, Joe.
Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, a feast is made for laughter, wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. I think we could do a better job at motivating our people in contribution talks, lessons and benevolence talks, by saying where it goes specifically every week and saying thank you, more than just coming up with the latest clever thing. I think it would just keep our hearts softer and eager to give. It's one of the things that when I went to New Zealand, they said, wow, my contribution will hire Sarah. A great correlation personally.
Right.
I think have to make money personal. I think we gave benevolence to this brother King, and when he came back from Manila, we got him up there to do the benevolence talk. And it went to him, he went to one of ours. I think when we had to send money to Samoa, it was for Beric, our intern who was converted. It was for her scooter. We weren't giving to God, we were giving to Beric, but it is to God, but it's to Beric. You go, well, we should just be willing to give to God, but we've got to move people's hearts. I think if I go, hey, just let you know that the money that you gave possibly last month or a year before, Samoa had a push service and you bought them their pig. Thank you so much for giving a pig 2 months ago in your contribution. I think I learned the recent thing. I studied the Bible with this Chinese guy, and the Chinese have a habit of loving money. And I was challenging him about giving contribution. I said, you should give $100. I know that, you're provided by different people. He goes, I don't know. I said, well, here's the thing. Let me show you the crown of thorns. We're going to plant a church in Beijing and Shanghai. So this money's going to China. I'll give it. No problem. See, when he connected, because he's still trying to get his head around Christianity, when he connected, it was beneficial for him in the future. It was no problem.
Yeah.
Then we recently just came back to church and said, I'm sorry, church, I made a decision for you. Some of your contribution is going to go to Ned in Vietnam, because Ned was in Sydney. He's a bit of a mascot of ours. It's going to go for his deposit, his rent. Sorry, I had to make that decision for you. They went, yeah, Ned, yeah. There was no sort of, how dare you? I want to be part of that decision. It's like, that's our buddy.
Yeah, that's right.
I know when I was hiring Beth gave $600. All right, so when you hire somebody like that, it's great, but it also hurts you. That's like $2,400. I went to church and go, guys, the only way I can hire Beth is if you replace her contribution and give me more money to pay her. So that's roughly, I need about $800 a week. Church just, next week, it was up. For Beth. We know Beth. We love Beth.
Come on, man.
I think financial presentations need to put names to figures at home and abroad. I think it's great when you give a special contribution to actually Taipei, Taiwan.
Yeah.
We actually need to speak in the average disciple's language, not ours. They don't want to know about percentages. They don't want to know about stats. They want to know if it's 1,000, 100,000, 200,000. It means nothing to them. If I go, our 70,000 literally went to Taipei. That is Leo, that is Brian, that is Evelyn.
Right.
I know when we were in Brisbane and we weren't part of the movement, and Sao Paulo was being sent out. And, the Cleggs and us went, we're going to give $5,000. And I know it was going into the central fund, but for us, it was for Brazil. So when they had a baptism and we weren't having a baptism, we were having a baptism.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It was personal. When your average person is asked, where does the money go that they give? Is it to God, to the church? Or is it to Ned, the orphanage, my friend Beric? Because that's what's missing in the religious world.
That's
Right.
It's just going to the pot and to build some church building. The church is our people.
Yeah.
People are motivated to give to individuals, not the big church pot.
Yeah.
And you must expect God to be loving so that you can be loving. Ecclesiastes 2:24, many of you know this is one of my favorite verses, if not my favorite verse. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. So God wants us to have a good time, right? This too I see is from the hand of God. For without him, who can eat and find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after wind. I'm not sure it's meaningless for me. It means a lot to me. But you've got to expect God to move the non-Christian to give you money on all levels. It's a key to enjoying life. It's a major key.
Yeah.
In Sydney, we have this expression, for free. And it actually comes from the movie Bedtime Stories, if you haven't watched it. And Adam Sandler is trying to get things for free. So when anybody comes up to me and goes, Joe, or I ask them, hey, Emmanuel, can you get a pulpit? What's the budget? For free. And you know what? They go and find it for free.
Yeah.
I remember we had our last conference and I wanted, an elaborate Chinese dance with one of those dragons and, and everything like that. I said, Aaron, you're in charge of finding the dragon costume. How much the budget, Joe? For free. Poor guys, this intern going, this is unrealistic. This Joe's a lunatic. You can't do it. Anyway, he walks out of Bondi station or food court or whatever, and he walks past his dentist. And in the window is this big dragon head that you dance with. He walks in, goes, excuse me, I hope you don't mind us, but can I borrow that head? And they go, sure.
Yeah.
And to hire that would have been hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I think for our conference, it's free. Why? See, Ted, our Presbyterian minister that gives us contribution, said, hey, Ted, when Elias and Mel wanted to get married, can we use your church for free? Well, can I use it for the conference for free? We've got this incredible old church with incredible acoustics, big organ that you're playing for free. Why? Because we loved him.
Yeah.
I think even I went into Office Works, which is like a Staples in America. And you know when you're in a queue and you think, I've got time to make a phone call. So I make a phone call, and then a couple of people from me went really quickly. So I'm now dealing with this person behind the counter. I hate that. It's like rude. And I was on the phone to a man, and I said, man, look, I need to just, 1 second, please. I said, look, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be rude. That's not how I am. I'm very sorry. Can you do this for me? And I said, no problem. She went off and did this photocopy. I said, go. And then she came back again and said, I'm very sorry, Manny. I'm really sorry. I really don't like to do this. She said, it's all right. It's for free. I said, why? She said, you know what? Everybody else that comes in here, they're on the phone. They treat me terribly. They ignore me. And you took the time to acknowledge me. You took the time to, be considerate to me and apologize. Yeah, you can have it for free. You see, love does equal money. Now, I didn't do it to get something free.
Right.
I think every time I go into McDonald's, nearly every time, I always mess. You drive through and there's that like 14-year-old, 16-year-old giving you the burgers. I've done this for years. I go, is it free today? And these poor kids look at me like, boss, is it free? One day I'm going to get a free McDonald's. There is definitely an expectation within our churches that God does miracles in fun. And not just so. At the beginning of the year, we didn't know how we would get everybody to the GLC. About $4 or $5 grand per person.
Yeah.
Okay? And yet we had over half our church there.
Yeah.
And Aaron Hart, with his wife Fung, well, more Aaron because he hadn't talked it through with his wife yet, and said, Joe, it's all right, we've got some extra money, we will pay for our ticket to go to the GLC, like $3.5 grand. But then GLC comes closer and money starts going through, and, Fung's like, well, we didn't really talk it through, and Aaron, and, feeling challenged by it, potentially bad attitude, and I said, well, I'm not going to give in here, it was your decision between you and God. Okay, because I'm not the rescuer, God is the rescuer. And when you rescue people, when they've made pledges to God, you get in the way of God.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they go to the conference, and I'm sure they're counting their pennies and everything like that. So they're coming back to Australia. They come back to their flight, and United have said, I'm sorry, we are fully booked. We are looking for people who cannot get on the flight. Okay, what's in it for me? They said, well, here's a voucher. They gave them a voucher, not with United, that they can use it in any store for $4,200. And then they were put on a flight with Qantas that left at exactly the same time and arrived at exactly the same time. So by paying for their own conference, they made $700. I can't believe it. Why does it happen to them? They're giving special. They're the guy that finds out the dragon head for free. You see, God sees the people along his earth and goes, you know what? There's money everywhere. I'm sure other people have got money from United Airlines because I want them to have money from United Airlines. I think finding houses with extra bedrooms. You've got to think when you go and get a house, if you're a married couple or something, we need an extra bedroom or a granny house for the same amount. Why? So that we can put interns in there for free. We have 85 disciples in Sydney and 14 staff. Can you imagine if Los Angeles had 14 staff for every 85 people? what that would do to your ministry. What's in it for me changing? Think about that. Ask people for old phones to give interns. Our interns get old phones from anybody, non-Christians. People go, cars, you name it, old computers. We expect to find things for free. There's an expectation in Sydney and throughout our churches that money is laying around if you look hard and bold. Your church is a culture created by you as the leader. Yeah. It's preaching through your word, your faith, and your conviction. Yet more than that, it is preached by your life.
Come on.
Yeah. In conclusion, practical. If you want to ask your people to raise their contribution now, or special, it's like asking your well-used 10-year-old car to go for a long journey. You have to spend time on the car and do a thorough maintenance before you set off. Not just fill out with petrol and hope for the best. Get them reading my book. Hands up if you've got one. Amen. Go home with one today. It's free. I personally would get with every individual and do an honest overhaul of their life and finances. Get into their life. Yeah. Show them you care and love them. Teach them what love is. Then make sure you sincerely do the follow-up every day, every week for the rest of your life, building their life. This is called discipleship. Yeah.
Come on.
A one-off career talk, financial talk, does not change people. They revert back to who they were when you weren't there. It needs to become their culture because it's your culture. You can do it. It just takes lots and lots of hard work. I love hard work. I have one life. I would rather burn out than fade away. Most human beings fade away. Then call them to raise their contribution because you care for them, for their future, for the kingdom. Now, love and money. You must constantly love people for them to feel like they want to give money. Point two, you must constantly have money to make people feel loved. I have one challenge for this group out of this. Either ask your boss tomorrow for a pay rise. Costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Costs you nothing and may give you tens of thousands of dollars. Or two, ask your landlord for a rent reduction. Anybody in this room can do one of those two. And message me the results tomorrow on Facebook Messenger, and then help me inspire people with your stories in your church as I preach the other lessons, and to God be the glory.
Come on!